come. We are going to change up the toy reviews a little bit, going to make it a little more interactive. And basically his specialty is your imports, Japanese stuff, vintage toys, and he's going to explain a little bit more.
Thanks for having me on, Matt. I think your knowledge of the contemporary figures and the stuff that they're selling today is far greater than mine. I'm going to be around asking a lot of questions, but thanks for having me on. I'm mostly into things like super robots from all the different manufacturers and a lot of vintage.
Good stuff.
Yeah.
I've always been a big fan of them. Have some of my personal collections, so it'll be fun to bring in your knowledge. You know a lot more about that stuff than I do. I mean, I collect it, but at the same time, it's nice to have somebody who's like really an expert on them.
Do you know who this is?
Yeah, it's Mazinger.
Great Mazinger.
This is different.
There's a difference.
There's a difference. See, and that's the thing. It's like
this was the replacement for Mazinger Z.
Okay.
Mazinger. There's a whole story behind it, whole cultures, and I think your viewers might be interested in something a little bit different. And then you can teach me some of the new stuff that's out there today.
Yeah, you know, I actually grew up in Philadelphia. We had Transor Z, which was basically just Mazinger or Great Mazinger. I don't even know which one.
Transor Z, I think was Mazinger Z, I think.
Right. Okay. So basically, it was just the dubbed over U.S. version. It didn't play in every city, and actually, I found out when I moved to Orlando that it never played in Orlando. And a lot of people in Orlando never saw it.
Never saw it.
And so I'd be like, oh yeah, there's this great show called Transor Z. And everybody's like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Well, I grew up in California in the 70s, and we had a Japanese channel called UHF 22. And I was privileged, you could only get it in LA. And it was all in Japanese. So I watched all the original programs, couldn't understand a word of what was going on. I was totally fascinated with it. And they had a little import toy shop called Pinocchio's in those days. My mother used to buy toys for me there. So that's really where I got the fascination with these characters. I didn't even really understand the stories at that time. It wasn't until much later that I was able to find English translations of the stories themselves. They were far better than I thought they were.
Now, I actually have a movie, and I think it's called Galaxy Raiders or Galaxy Guardian of the Galaxy or something. It's a really crappy DVD that I bought at Walmart for like $1. And
did the bad guy look like Batman?
No, it was actually basically Mazinger, like the original one. The animation was so bad. It was basically just stills. And then every once in a while their mouth would move.
Yeah.
And the dubbing is about as bad as it comes.
Yeah.
Like the voices didn't go at all with the characters.
Right.
They all sounded like they were sucking on helium.
Right.
And it's one of those movies that is just so painful I can't watch it, but I bought it just because it looked like Transor Z that I remember. And then I got home. I want to say it was Guardians of the Galaxy or something like that.
I don't know. You see,
and it's not even translated properly. It's not even like I in my head I try to like make it make sense, and this just says like Galaxy Raider or Guardian Galaxy something stupid.
A lot of the original Japanese series were totally butchered. See, what ended up happening was American companies would buy the series and rehash it and make a new series out of the old footage and rename it, totally alter the stories. They did that with Getter Robo G. I think it had to do with the fact that in Japan they were full-size series that lasted a long time, and they couldn't do that because they didn't want to. The networks wouldn't allow them to compete with their series, so they chop it down into like a 4-hour movie, and it was totally bastardized.
I think a big part of it also has to do with it was such a trial market in the beginning of the 80s, late 70s, early 80s. They weren't really sure if that would like fly in America.
Right.
It was all new. Anime, had not really been around.
Right.
So it was kind of a test market, and it's like, obviously, I'm not going to buy 100 episodes if I don't know if it's going to go.
And another thing is that the really great series usually were written by Go Nagai, and the storylines were quite adult.
Right.
And
they had to edit a lot.
They had to edit a lot of that out because cartoons in the United States were for kids. They were for children.
Right.
Well, that's not what the deal was in Japan. They were for teens.
Yeah,
so some of them had adult themes. And
the old anime stuff, right? And we all know about how anime can go the whole gamut.
From,
From kid stuff to porn.
But if you guys if you guys have never seen any Go Nagai series, see them. Try to. They're available online with subtitles, and they're fantastic stories. Go Nagai was kind of like a Japanese version of Stan Lee. And
Well,
really
everybody's
what you're talking.
familiar with Voltron. I mean,
Voltron.
Voltron was pretty much that's.
It was along the same lines. That was not a Go Nagai, but it was inspired by Go Nagai.
Mhm.
Go Nagai was the original.
Right. Right.
He was the original. He was the Stan Lee of Japan.
Right.
The stories were great. I guess that's probably about it. That'd be a good introduction,
That's a good
huh?
intro. Hi, this is Matt with Collecting